What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to a new episode of the RBLR Bulls podcast. If you guys are coming back, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. If you're new, because this is, as me and Musab Tariq will get into in a moment, this is the biggest game of the season for our beloved South Florida Bulls. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. I'm Jonathan Shields. That's Musab Tariq. Tariq, how you doing today, man? Big win for the Bulls last week, and even bigger one coming up next week.
So far, so good. Yeah, it was. I think the biggest thing that I wanted to see was, the USF, making a statement when, I would be okay about it if we just scraped by. That would have been kind of weird. But no, we made a statement, especially that first half was super dominant. So I'm real happy. But yeah, the real fun begins this upcoming weekend or this Friday.
Yeah, USF had the gritty backdoor cover as well. I know we had some people tuned in about that, but the Bulls did win 54-26, and I do want to shout out the fans at Raymond James. It looked like we talked about it before. What was the atmosphere going to look like? Friday night, and for the most part, it looked like the fans did kind of show up and show out. But for the Bulls, they won 54-26 over Charlotte. So, Trey, I mean, we'll just go right back to what was your kind of takeaways from the game? Were you impressed? Were you were there some kind of meat left on the bone for USF? What was kind of your takeaway?
Biggest takeaway was just, how dominant we were. Just in the first half, we were up 23-0 at one point, 407 rushing yards. I mean, that's just nuts. Quarterback, Byrum Brown just took off both in the pass game and rush game. But it was also just nice seeing. At first you were thinking, oh, I'm not going to see a lot of the kind of backups or maybe the depth pieces getting in action because it's in a conference game or whatever. I feel like we kind of knew Charlotte wasn't really that good, but man, the offense was spreading the ball all around. So overall, I was pretty happy. Of course, a couple of errors, but I mean, what were some good things that you saw?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty impressed, like you said, with that first half. Like you said, USF's up 23-0 after the end of the first quarter, and is basically wraps from there. But like you said, running for 407 yards is incredible. That's 6.6 yards per carry. Obviously, you talk about Byrum Brown having 162 of those yards, but we talked about how the Alex Golesh loves to share the wealth. We had 4 guys with 13 or more carries. That's pretty big time. 6.6 yards per carry. Not to mention running the ball 62 times. That's elite level stuff. And USF let their foot off the gas a little bit. If you take away that fourth quarter, right, it was 33-7 at halftime, and it was kind of wraps from there. So it was pretty, what USF is expected to do, right? When I watched the game, it wasn't anything like, oh, I'm super impressed with this. That is, if USF is what we think they are supposed to do this to that level of team. So I was relieved, not the right word, satisfied to see that, okay, like they ran it for whenever they wanted to, basically. They stopped them when they needed to. And you have a tendency, when you're up 33-10 going into the fourth quarter to kind of let the foot off the gas a little bit defensively. And that's what kind of happened there. But was there anything that you saw there like, ooh, that's not great as they get into the heart of the American schedule?
Look, we committed 4 turnovers this game, and there was like 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions, kind of just overall sloppy play. I mean, we kind of, let our foot off the gas pedal. Yeah, as you said in the fourth quarter, but that was just on the defensive side. Shout out to the offense. I mean, they racked up 21 points in that fourth quarter. So, for what it's worth, I mean, I'll take a team that dominated 3 quarters out of 3 out of 4 quarters, but. No, that's about it, though. I mean, I just feel like, it was just kind of here, there, everywhere at times, with those kind of sloppy plays. But I don't know. It's kind of just, it's kind of bound to happen. Perhaps maybe the approach, especially with those interceptions, I'm forgetting them from the top of my head, actually, how they, what they were exactly. But, perhaps we were just going, we're kind of playing a little bit more aggressive. So, I mean, we just got to, just, lock in. We can't afford to, make any of those sort of errors, especially, this upcoming Friday. But that's really about it, though. I mean, it's hard to find a lot of bad from a game like that, other than just us kind of just sagging off, really. But did you see anything?
Yeah, I don't love the turnovers, kind of like you mentioned. You know, when you like you said when you play against these bigger teams, you know, North Texas, Memphises of the world, you can't do that. And they didn't do that when they played Florida in their win. You know, Boise they were pretty clean for the most part, but you never love seeing multiple fumbles. And there's a fumble on the second drive when USF was driving, right? There were two fumbles and then the two interceptions. So you know, the interception on the first play when it's 26-0 leads to the first Charlotte touchdown, you know, which is never great. But I was really impressed. I mean, in the first quarter, USF gave Charlotte nothing. Let me read you the drive chart. So USF scores 6 plays, 75 yards in less than a minute. Charlotte 3 plays, 4 yards, punt. And then the fumble from USF. How's the defense respond? 3 plays, 0 yards. USF gets the ball back. 7 plays, 77 yards, touchdown. Next Charlotte possession, 3 plays, -2 yards, and a safety. Next Charlotte drive, 3 plays, 1 yard, punt. The next Charlotte interception, 2 plays, 0 yards, interception. I mean that's dominant right there, and it
Oh
should be
yeah.
expected because this USF defense is, in my opinion, the equivalent of a high major defense. You know, you talk about the names like like a Schuler and a Harris, who I mean that's as good as it gets in a linebacking duo. Definitely in the group of five. I would argue in for half of the power four as well. So yeah, what did you kind of see from that defense?
Yeah, our defense. I mean, yeah, shout out Jalen Schuler, Mac Harris. I mean, they had a great game against Charlotte. You know, I think both. I think I know like Schuler had about 10 tackles, had a forced fumble. Even Harris had a forced fumble as well. Just pressuring the quarterback, but also a shout out as well. To our DBs and our D line just overall for just staying hot for the most part. I feel like what we saw just that one quarter kind of, sagging off. I feel like that was just it's just an error. I mean, overall, we've been so good. It happens. So I'm trying not to think too much of it, but I just got to say, I mean, overall, the defense is getting the job done. I mean, other than just a couple of little dinks and doinks. It's bound to happen, especially when you're up so much. You just decide maybe let's try out a couple things. Maybe use Charlotte as a guinea pig, perhaps have a different approach. But I was overall just very happy, and I think the biggest thing that I took away was just how valuable our depth pieces are on offense and defense. For example, I mean, shout out Jeremiah Koger, freshman, 4 receptions for 75 yards and a touchdown. So big plays all around. And yeah, I mean, our run game was sharing the ball hella. So I got to ask you, though, who was your player of the game? Was it I'm going to have to go Byrum Brown,
Yeah.
but was there anyone who kind of stood out to you?
There's like two versions of the player of the game, right? There's Byron Brown, the passer, and Byron Brown, the runner. Which is it just kind of proves how talented he is. Since you went offense, I'll go defense. I will go Schuler just because I mean I've just been so impressed with the linebacking duo as a whole. I mean they've just been everywhere. They're sideline to sideline guys. They can cover, they can come up and meet you right in the gap and slam you down at the line of scrimmage. So yeah, I'll definitely go with one of those linebackers. And there's no way you go Byron Brown, like I said, the runner and the passer, or one of the four guys that got 13 plus carries and was part of that 6.6 yards per rush. So yeah,
Mhm.
no bad decision there. But we were talking before we went live, and this is no offense to Charlotte, but this is the biggest game of the year coming up for the Bulls. That includes Florida, that includes Miami, that includes Boise State. And if you don't know who USF is playing, they're going to North Texas tomorrow night. North Texas is 5-0, is widely considered kind of that group of five pick for the college football playoff. So far this year, they've beaten Lamar, known powerhouse Lamar, 51-0. They beat Western Michigan 33-30. They beat Washington State, and this score definitely took me by surprise. Former Power 5 Washington State, now part of the Pac-2, ripped the Pac-12. They beat them 59-10. Then beat Army
Wow.
45-38,
Yeah.
South Alabama 36-22. So their offense scored more than 30 points in every single game. They're led by Drew Mestemaker, who leads the American with a 158.4 passing efficiency ranking. It is among the top three in football subdivision quarterbacks and touchdown passes with 11 against 0 interceptions. So that's just a quick, we'll go more to depth with the preview. But if you were to tell someone in about a minute 30, what's North Texas done this year? You have to start with their offense, and you got to start with their quarterback. What have you seen from them?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you said it already. Drew Mestamaker, only a freshman. I got to give it to him. I mean, yeah, he's been doing great. I think actually I saw that like he hasn't started a game since he was like I think in like ninth grade or something. I forgot where I saw that, but I mean, look, he's got plenty of weapons. They deserve their flowers as well. Caleb Hawkins, he's a pass game threat too. He had 140 rushing yards, 78 receiving yards last game. He has 7 touchdowns rushing and even racked up a touchdown with receptions. But they even changed it up. They got some deep ball threats. Like Wyatt Young. He's a wide receiver, averaging about 16 and a half yards per catch. Already has 3 touchdowns, and then pairing Caleb Hawkins in the running back room. We got Mackenzie McKill, who's got 4 touchdowns already. So, but one guy I feel like he could kind of just come out of nowhere. I mean, he's not going to come out of nowhere. I mean, he's already a stud. But I mean, if they cook up a couple of trick plays, he is this little Speedy Gonzalez, 5'6", 159. But oh my God, he is quick. He can run. He's a short pass threat. That's Miles Coleman. So I think that's probably, and he's also the top target for University of North Texas. So I'll probably say those are the 4 big or 5, big players I'm looking at. When it comes to our USF defense, how do we slow them down, especially pressuring Drew Mestamaker, because they had an interesting game against South Alabama. I mean, looking at the score, they ran away with the lead at the end. But for what it's worth, when I was watching it, it was kind of a little bit of a back and forth dogfight. But you give Drew Mestamaker a little bit of time, and I mean, those guys that I was talking about, the running backs, the wide receivers, they'll step up and keep moving the chains.
Yeah. And, like I said, we touched on it before. I really want to emphasize how big of a game this is for South Florida. Yes, they beat Florida. That's an incredible accomplishment. Yes, they beat Boise. Incredible. They played Miami tough. They blew out Charlotte. If they lose to North Texas, it's immediate. They're ranked right now. They're ranked again. It'll be immediate. It won't matter what they do the rest of the year. They won't make the playoff. And that's just the unfortunate part of where USF is. And it sucks because USF could win out and they could still be good enough to make the playoff. But I'm saying that to just give the USF has to be perfect kind of from here on out. And they've awarded themselves this opportunity because of the way that they played in their non-conference. So this is the biggest game until kind of the next game is the biggest game, right? But USF's season can't really get to its full potential without a win this Friday. And I'm never one of those type of people that is, it's like do or die, and it's not even do or die, for USF. USF could go 10-2 and still have a shot at the playoff. But to control their own destiny, yes, they play Memphis later in the year, and that will become the biggest game once that week comes up. But it just feels like to get where USF wants to get to this year and is talented enough to get to this year, they need to have this game. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, just even looking at the storyline, this is an undefeated North Texas team. I think that was something historical actually for their university to start out 5-0. I don't think they've ever done that, or maybe it's been many, many years. But anyways, yeah, the storyline, and then on top of that, I mean, you see it as well, and I mean, I feel like I notice it. A little bit more attention from the media, regarding this game and just regarding USF football. We're 24th ranked in the nation right now. So this is going to be a big game. Again, yeah, as you said, it's a statement game. This is another really good team. We saw what we could do against a bad American Athletic Conference team. Well, now it's time to face, more of the big dogs. And other than Memphis, this is our biggest test. So, I mean, they got some, big threats on offense that we got to watch out for. And I mean, it's a close one. I mean, even, you look up, on the sports books or, what people are predicting and all that, it's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah. We touched a little bit on their offense. I want to dive more into their defense because their defense has been shaky, to kind of say the least so far this year. I think USF has a distinct advantage defensively. I think USF's defense is much better than North Texas, but they're led by Ethan Wazalski, who has 31 tackles, a sack and a half, a pick, and a fumble recovery for a touchdown. So he's done a little bit of everything. And in doing kind of the research for this, you see a lot of guys that have been at North Texas. They don't have a ton of these high major transfer players. You have some. Their leader in stacks, Kavion Huddleston, is from a TCU transfer, right? So they still have their own. But when everyone that we named on offense is from their core of North Texas, right? And in this day and age of the transfer portal, I just thought that was really interesting. It speaks to the coaching development of North Texas, but their defense has left a lot to be desired, and I think that's where USF can really get after them, allowing 38 points to Army, who lost to Tarleton State. No offense to Tarleton State, but they're not USF. Just to put it in perspective, who gave up who gave up 30 to Western Michigan. Western Michigan, again, not any world beaters. They put up 14 points against Tulane. So what I'm saying is what USF did in their non-conference has prepared them for this moment. And North Texas, I think, is going to get kind of a rude awakening once they face the speed that USF has on offense. So what have you seen from this North Texas defense? And do you kind of agree with what I'm saying, that there are some leaks there?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you on that. To be honest, I mean, yeah, as you mentioned, yeah, they got to, I mean, the teams, if you look at the stat sheet, are, kind of similar with how they perform, the team defensive stats. But I mean, yeah, sure, they got some good guys, like you mentioned, Huddleston and Ethan Wislowski. So, I mean, they definitely have role players, who make the difference. But yeah, I mean, you think about how many, points our defense is, allowed minus that Miami game, because that's Miami. And then you compare it to theirs, and our defense has just been really making noise. We've also faced, to take down Boise State and UF like that, especially UF. I mean, that was, that's a big statement. So, North Texas, to me, I'm really happy with what they're doing. They look real good. The thing is, I mean, who have they really faced to, really tell us, wow, okay. It's one thing if they ran over Army. I mean, they ran over Washington State, but I mean, Washington State isn't the Washington State that we know. And
exactly. Yeah.
the other ones, I mean, the other one, South Alabama. I mean, it was a close game till the end, and then Lamar. Obviously, you're going to run over Lamar, and then you mentioned Western Michigan was a real close one. Yeah, 2 overtime games. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to act like we're the hottest defense in in the nation right now, but our defense is much different than what they faced so far, and I feel like we got to wreak havoc like we have, especially on the quarterbacks in the past, like DJ Lagway, the Boise quarterback, anyone. So I'm hoping, that's what we do again. And that's probably the big thing I'm looking at is, we're going to have to throw them off.
Yeah. So, Musabi, you mentioned the number, right? It's at 1.5. I was, Vegas knows what they're doing, obviously, but I was a little bit surprised by that because I think USF has advantages everywhere. You mentioned, North Texas is very talented in, their quarterback receiver combo, right? You'll see 2 of the 3 best quarterbacks in the American on the field on Friday night. It kind of shows the talent that's in that conference. But we want to talk about the North Texas quarterback being perfect. I'm sure, I'm sure USF stats might look a little bit better if they played Western Michigan and Lamar, but instead they went out and challenged themselves and played Florida in the swamp, and played at Miami, and played against Boise State at home. But so I think people from the outside may look, oh, Byrum Brown has X amount of turnovers, X amount of yards, but I think that if you flip North Texas and USF's schedule, I think North Texas would be 2-3 right now coming into this game. So, what do you think about that?
I didn't think about it like that, but I do agree with you. Honestly, I feel like, yeah, I'm forgetting his name already right now. Yeah, Mestamaker, he is no Byrum Brown, and Byrum Brown's a game changer. I mean, I don't want to just make it sound like it's all about him, but then again, it really is. I mean,
he starts with him.
It starts with him. I mean, the passing, and he's a rushing animal as well. So that's a huge boost, and I feel like that's something that they lack. I mean, I feel like otherwise our offenses match up. The fact that we have a if you think about it, we have like a four-headed monster,
Yep.
if Cartavius
Yep.
Norton was healthy right now, yeah, it would be like a four-headed monster. So you're just thinking about, wow, what do we got? So I'm right there with you, man. And it just makes me think, I mean, who are the players you counting on, to ball out? I mean, of course, we've been talking about Byrum Brown. The quarterback has to have a good game, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But it makes me wonder, though, looking at the run game, Byrum Brown, he's a rushing stud, but I was actually reading an article from USF Athletics, and that's what Alex Golesh was saying was, you know, we don't want Byrum Brown to be our top rusher or our best rusher. You know what I'm saying? We know he can, but we got guys like Alvon Isaac, Sam Franklin, Nakai Davenport. All great guys. They've all shown out, balled out. Of course, I would say Cartavius Norton, but he's going to be out for a bit, due to the injury. So it just makes me feel. I guess I want to ask you, what do you feel about our run game? Since I've already kind of told you that at least our running backs are one of the key players, but who else are you looking at?
Yeah, it's USF has had a lot of success this season completing those downfield passes. And we didn't see it as much against Charlotte. They took their shots and whatnot, but when you look at the Florida game, when you look at the Miami game, you saw Chaz Nimrod getting loose downfield, and I don't want to say he still had a good game. 5 yards for 5 catches for 54 yards is really good and a touchdown. But him and Jeremiah Cogger, if USF has ample success, it's hitting one of them for an explosive play. It's hitting one of them for a 50-yard touchdown, right? And that's what they've done a lot this season when they've been at their best. And if USF can't run the ball, I still think they'll be able to run the ball effectively. You don't love if Byrum Brown is your leading rusher, but you don't hate it as well just because how much he carries it as well. But USF's not going to run for 400 yards again. But if they run for 6.6 yards per carry or over 5 yards per carry, then I think that they're in a really good spot. So, Musab, I want to ask you, we'll get this starts of the prediction, but if USF wins, what's the reason why? When we go back and look at the box score, whatever Saturday or before we do this, next Wednesday, if USF wins, what in that box score would be like, oh, that's why they won?
The big thing, probably, that USF defensive line, edge rushers, they cannot let Mestamaker sit in the pocket. I mean, we gotta attack, fire on all cylinders. Otherwise, I mean, their pass game, I like it a lot. I feel confident with our DBs, but I mean, if they're just going to be doing that over and over again, it's bound to happen. We've seen a couple of good plays. They got a couple of trick plays as well. So they got a couple of tricks up their sleeve, but we got to attack Mestamaker. I just feel like I don't mean to put him down and all that, but I mean he's only a freshman, so there's only so much experience he has under his belt. And watching this game against South Alabama, I feel like he's kind of more just following the game plan. He's kind of very sticking to the game plan is what I mean. You know what I'm saying? When I think of Byrum Brown, I feel like he's got the game plan in his mind, but then last minute, oh snap, never mind, and he changes it up because he can, you know what I'm saying? Because he's got wheels as well. So that's one thing is, we got to throw, we win because we throw, Mestamaker off his game. We lock up the quarterback, lock up the wide receivers from our cornerbacks and safeties, but just spreading. And it's also because, Mac Harris and Jalen Schuler, they have another, awesome game along with the rest of our defensive line. You know what I'm saying? So I saw some good things from South Alabama's defensive line, and I feel like if South Alabama can do it, so can we. So that's what I'm looking for. Is this is what I would use. So what I tell Carter and Zach on our Buccaneers podcast is if our pass rush can't get to them, hopefully our DBs will do it. But I'm looking at it the other way. I'm counting on our pass rush to be stellar, fire on all cylinders. To really dominate. That's the big thing I'm counting on because I do expect it to be a dogfight, of course. I don't want to count it out, and I'm counting that we stop their run game as well.
Yeah, so let's get right to the prediction. Who wins and what's the score?
I'm going to go 31-27. What about you?
I think USF makes a statement. I think diving more
Ooh,
into
okay.
North Texas, they haven't look. It's great that they're getting this national love for beating Washington State. This isn't like 2019 Washington State. This isn't Mike Leach's Washington State. This is now Washington State. That's worse than that. They would be a mid-tier American team. That's great that they beat Army, who lost to an FCS school. It's great that they did these things. USF is going to win this game because they played Boise. They went to Florida. They went to Miami. That's why they're going to win by at least 2 points. I will go 34-20. USF wins, and I think it's going to
Okay.
be.
Wow. I
This
like
is
it.
going to be a statement win from USF. I
I
think
mean,
people are going
this
to
this
come
is
out of here.
definitely the game. Yeah, this is definitely the game to do it. I mean, I think they absolutely have the capability. The biggest thing is, look, if we beat them with the tempo, mix in those runs, a short, high percentage passes to chew the clock. I think that's something we'll be able to kind of take control of. And on top of that, we need that momentum. We're going to their house. It's a big game, and we we gotta start out hot too. I feel like momentum is going to be a big thing, especially in this game. Otherwise, I mean, it's just who knows how this game goes. But that's why I'm going 31-27. I could see USF running away with it, but there's it's really any given Sunday, or in this case, any given Friday.
Yeah.
So that's why I think they have the capability. But again, all eyes are going to be on that freshman quarterback. I mean, yeah, they got a great team, but as you said it already, to summarize it, they haven't faced competition like we do, and their quarterback is not our quarterback. I feel like those are two big things that are going to separate us, along with our, defensive stars, as we said, even from our, DBs, James Chenault and Deshaun Rucker. But Mac Harris and Jalen Schuler, I expect them to ball out as well. But yeah.
Yeah, so we talked enough football. Let's get around, all of USF athletics. Volleyball picked up 2 big wins over Temple and North Texas, both in 4 sets. Still undefeated in conference. They've won 14 straight conference home matches. They'll head back on the road for a pair of matches against Rice and Tulane. So they better not lose to Food over the next week. So for men's soccer, they won 3-2 over Stetson. They're still undefeated, 6-0-5. They play FIU this Sunday. And then for women's soccer, they Thursday game against UTSA, who are 2-0 in a conference. Both teams, last game was a tie with the conference. So USF women's soccer is currently 2-1-1 in conference, and they will play against UTSA tomorrow night. So that's a look around USF's athletics. Obviously, basketball is also starting soon. In the next month, this time next month, USF will have played their first game by then. So definitely.
USF athletics is looking, yeah, man. I mean, if you think about it, we haven't our athletics. Looking at the sports we're talking about, yeah, we haven't lost a game in a couple of weeks now. So,
Yeah, no,
and I mean, all these teams, I'm pretty sure. I think, yeah, volleyball is. I think they're. I know that. I think they're. I mean, they're definitely top 3. I know men's soccer, I think, is number 2. They're right behind FAU.
Yeah.
Only because I don't think FAU has any ties, or I think they have 1 loss. But same thing with women's soccer, though. So yeah, shout out USF Athletics, man. We've we've really made drastic improvements from when I was there, which was not too long ago either, 2020. But no, I love to see it.
No, everything's school. Simple as that. USF. So can't emphasize enough. We've talked about how big of a game this is for USF. If USF gets this win, don't be surprised. Maybe if you see a college game day going down to Memphis in a few weeks. So that's looking a little bit too far ahead. But and I hate to be so drastic, but it really feels like if USF lose Friday, everything they did leading up to this was for nothing. Beating Boise was for nothing. Beating Florida was, I don't want to say for nothing because their program kind of changing wins. But in terms of the big picture of this year, it's just really kind of let a little bit of the air out of the balloon. But me and Musab both think that they will win. So take it to the bank. We'll never advertise for gambling, but if you think USF's going to win, you can get them a plus money right now. Kind of simple as that. But just big game. If USF wants to get to where they want to get to, it starts with a win this Friday in Texas. You know, we haven't really talked about it. We mentioned it a little bit, but it's an away game for USF. But you know, since they played in the swamp when it was a sellout and at Miami, I think they'll handle it just fine. But so Musab, before we get out of here, do you have anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, man. No, I'm real fired up. I'm real excited, and just a friendly reminder to all them listeners. However you're listening to this, please, do like and subscribe. Follow us on socials at RBLR Bulls. So, believe me when I say we want to hear from you. Tell us your hot takes. Tell us what you think. Maybe we're wrong about some things because of X, Y, and Z. So, we're all open ears all year round, 24/7. So, thank you again, Johnny. Always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. See you guys.
Go Bulls.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.